Let's discuss simplifying three-way switch wiring and identifying potential malfunctions. The approach involves streamlining the wiring process and ensuring adherence to safety standards, specifically regarding grounding. Firstly, consider eliminating the bypass wire. Instead of bypassing the first switch with a separate wire, connect the incoming hot black wire directly to the common terminal of the first switch. This simplifies the wiring configuration at the first switch location. Secondly, implement the use of a jumper wire. To connect the travelers between the two switches, employ a jumper wire instead of utilizing the travelers within the incoming cable. This technique eliminates the need to terminate the travelers in both switches, further simplifying the connections. Regarding malfunctions, a critical point is the missing ground wire. There is no mention of a ground wire being connected at any point in the initial description. It is imperative to understand that all electrical circuits require a ground wire for safety. The absence of a ground wire poses a significant electrical hazard and violates electrical codes. A revised wiring configuration emphasizes the inclusion of a ground wire throughout the circuit. The path of the circuit begins at the panel where the hot black wire originates. This wire connects to the first three-way switch. Inside the first three-way switch, the hot wire connects to the common terminal via black wire. The travelers are then connected between the two switches using jumper wires. The switch leg then runs to the second three-way switch. At the second three-way switch, the travelers connect via a jumper wire to the common terminal that is wired to a dark screw. The switch leg then runs to the neutral wire and then to the light. It is essential to ensure that a ground wire is present and properly connected at every junction box and to the light fixture. The absence of a proper ground connection can lead to electric shock or fire hazards. Always consult with a qualified electrician for any electrical work. It is crucial to follow local electrical codes and regulations. The colors of the switch legs may vary depending on the specific switches used. Ensure that all connections are secure and properly insulated. When working with electricity, safety should be the top priority. Wear appropriate personal protective equipment such as safety glasses and insulated gloves. Never work on electrical circuits while they're energized. Always energize a circuit by turning off the corresponding circuit breaker at the electrical panel. Double check that the circuit is de-energized using a non-contact voltage tester. If you are unsure about any aspect of the electrical work, consult with a qualified electrician. Improper wiring can lead to dangerous situations and potential damage to property. Taking the time to understand the fundamentals of electrical wiring and safety practices can help prevent accidents and ensure that your electrical system is functioning properly. Remember, electrical work should only be performed by individuals who have the necessary knowledge and experience. The potential for electric shock or fire hazards is significant, so it is crucial to exercise caution and follow all safety guidelines. When dealing with electrical systems, it is always better to be safe than sorry. When using a multimeter to test a circuit, make sure you are following the proper procedures. Use the correct settings in the meter and always double-check your readings. If you are not familiar with how to use a multimeter, consult with a qualified electrician. Working with electricity can be dangerous, and it is important to take all necessary precautions. When installing electrical wiring, make sure you are using the correct size wire for the application. The wire gauge must be appropriate for the amount of current that the circuit will be carrying. Using undersized wire can lead to overheating and potentially cause a fire. Consult the National Electrical Code (NEC) for guidance on wire sizing. The NEC provides tables and guidelines for determining the appropriate wire size based on the amperage of the circuit and the type of insulation. When making connections in electrical boxes, use appropriate connectors and ensure that all connections are tight and secure. Loose connections can lead to arcing and overheating, which can also cause a fire. Use wire connectors, such as wire nuts, to join wires together. Make sure the wire nuts are properly sized for the number and gauge of wires being connected. When working with electrical panels, always be aware of the potential hazards. Electrical panels contain live components that can cause electric shock. Never touch any exposed wires or terminals inside the panel. If you need to work inside the panel, to energize the main breaker before proceeding. Wear appropriate personal protective equipment such as insulated gloves and safety glasses. When running electrical wiring through walls and ceilings, make sure you are following the proper installation techniques. Use appropriate supports and fasteners to secure the wiring in place. Avoid running wires through areas where they could be damaged or exposed to moisture. When installing electrical outlets and switches, make sure they are properly grounded. The grounding conductor provides a path for fault current to flow back to the source, which helps to protect against electric shock. Connect the grounding conductor to the grounding terminal on the outlet or switch. When replacing an existing electrical outlet or switch, make sure you are using the correct type of device. Use a device that is rated for the voltage and amperage of the circuit. When installing a new electrical circuit, make sure you are obtaining the necessary permits and inspections. Electrical work is typically regulated by local building codes, and it is important to comply with these regulations to ensure safety and prevent potential problems. A qualified electrical inspector will review your work to ensure that it meets the code requirements. Remember, electrical work should only be performed by individuals who have the necessary knowledge and experience. If you are not comfortable working with electricity, it is always best to hire a qualified electrician. They have the training and expertise to perform the work safely and correctly. Electrical safety is paramount. Always prioritize safety when working with electricity. De-energize the circuit before working on it. Use appropriate personal protective equipment. Follow all electrical codes and regulations. If you are unsure about anything, consult with a qualified electrician. When selecting electrical components such as circuit breakers and fuses, make sure they are properly rated for the application. The circuit breaker or fuse should be sized to protect the wiring and equipment from overcurrent. Using an oversized circuit breaker or fuse can allow excessive current to flow through the wiring, which can lead to overheating and potentially cause a fire. Consult the NEC for guidance on circuit breaker and fuse sizing. When installing electrical equipment, such as lighting fixtures and appliances, make sure they are properly grounded. The grounding conductor provides a path for fault current to flow back to the source, which helps to protect against electric shock. Connect the grounding conductor to the grounding terminal on the equipment. When working with electrical tools, such as wire strippers and pliers, make sure they are in good working condition. Use tools that are designed for electrical work and that are properly insulated. Inspect the tools regularly for any signs of damage or wear. When working in damp or wet locations, take extra precautions to avoid electric shock. Use ground fault circuit interrupters (GFCIs) to protect against electric shock. GFCIs are designed to detect ground faults and to quickly shut off the power to the circuit. Use waterproof or weatherproof electrical boxes and fittings when installing electrical equipment in wet locations. When working on electrical projects, it is helpful to have a clear understanding of electrical circuits and wiring diagrams. A wiring diagram is a visual representation of the electrical connections in a circuit. It shows the location of the wires, components, and devices. Use wiring diagrams to help you understand how the circuit works and to ensure that you are making the correct connections. When troubleshooting electrical problems, start by identifying the symptoms. What is not working properly? When did the problem start? Once you have identified the symptoms, you can begin to isolate the cause of the problem. Use a multimeter to test for voltage, current, and resistance. Check for loose connections, damaged wires, and faulty components. If you are unable to resolve the problem, consult with a qualified electrician. When working with electrical systems, it is important to stay organized and to keep your work area clean. Use labels to identify wires and components. Keep your tools and materials in a safe and organized manner. Clean up any debris or spills immediately. A clean and organized work area will help you to work more efficiently and safely. When completing an electrical project, take the time to document your work. Create a wiring diagram of the circuit. Label the wires and components. Keep a record of the materials that you used. This documentation will be helpful for future maintenance and troubleshooting. Remember, electrical work should only be performed by individuals who have the necessary knowledge and experience. If you are not comfortable working with electricity, it is always best to hire a qualified electrician. They have the training and expertise to perform the work safely and correctly. Electrical codes and regulations are constantly evolving. Stay up to date on the latest changes to the NEC and other applicable codes. Attend continuing education courses and workshops to enhance your knowledge and skills. By staying informed, you can ensure that you are performing electrical work safely and in compliance with the latest standards. When working with electrical systems, it is important to be aware of the potential for arc flash. Arc flash is a dangerous electrical explosion that can occur when a high voltage arc is created between two conductors. Arc flash can cause severe burns, blindness, and even death. To protect against arc flash, wear appropriate personal protective equipment, such as arc-rated clothing, gloves, and face shields. Follow safe work practices and procedures. Use arc flash hazard analysis to determine the potential for arc flash in a given situation. When working with electrical equipment, it is important to follow the manufacturer's instructions. The manufacturer's instructions provide specific guidance on how to install, operate, and maintain the equipment safely and correctly. Read the instructions carefully before using the equipment. If you have any questions, contact the manufacturer or a qualified electrician. When working with batteries, it is important to handle them with care. Batteries contain corrosive chemicals that can cause burns. Avoid contact with the chemicals. Wear appropriate personal protective equipment, such as gloves and safety glasses. Dispose of batteries properly. Do not throw them in the trash. Recycle them at a designated recycling center. When working with generators, it is important to follow the manufacturer's instructions. Generators produce electricity, and it is important to use them safely. Make sure the generator is properly grounded. Do not operate the generator in a confined space. Carbon monoxide poisoning can occur if the generator is not properly ventilated. When working with solar panels, it is important to follow the manufacturer's instructions. Solar panels produce electricity when exposed to sunlight. Use appropriate personal protective equipment, such as gloves and safety glasses. Avoid contact with the electrical connections on the solar panels. When working with wind turbines, it is important to follow the manufacturer's instructions. Wind turbines produce electricity when the wind blows. Use appropriate personal protective equipment, such as a hard hat and safety glasses. Avoid contact with the moving parts of the wind turbine. Remember, electrical work should only be performed by individuals who have the necessary knowledge and experience. If you are not comfortable working with electricity, it is always best to hire a qualified electrician. They have the training and expertise to perform the work safely and correctly.